What's up YouTube, I have Zephyr Wargames bringing you a test stand video for the Ancient Gear deck profile that I did for you guys the other day. Now obviously this is under the new link format and of course with the introduction of new support from Ancient Millennium Pack. So we're going to get to see what this deck can now do after a good old shuffle and a good even cut. Or, well, there you go, a good even cut. There you go, we're going to start our open hand of 5 being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's a fairly decent hand to start off with. We can activate our terraforming just to deck fin a little bit more and get us a second gear town that we might need for our next play. But of course we've got the decent combo in hand. Activate a gear town and then activate our catapult. Now we've got two ways of going about this. We could, if we want to if we could neg a hand card and go into a VFD, and that kind of shuts our opponent down, plus we've got an effect veiler that's going to do even more to them the next turn. Or of course we could go a little bit further and go into one of our fusions. So it's really dependent on what you want to do, because off of catapult you could then get golem, and then off of gear town you could then get wyvern, and then wyvern could then search you out the brand new fusion. Ancient Gear Fusion, and then we can then activate that using golem, sending whatever we wanted from our deck to the grave depending on what we wanted to make. So that is an option there for you. Or of course, like I said, you can go into a VFD. So the options are there to give you a bit of variety. It's really dependent on what you would like to finish on. So you could finish on obviously a Howitzer for a bit of protection. You could you could finish on a Chaos Ancient Gear Giant if they can't get rid of it, Ancient Gear Golem, or the new one, Ancient Gear Mechatron Golem. Or if you wanted to, you can go into your VFD, and then that gives you a bit of protection along with Effect Veiler. But going into a Howitzer is probably the safer option. But if you feel you could stop your opponent with an Effect Veiler next turn, then you know I'd probably go all in and go for the Ancient Gear Giant, just because if they can't do anything, you're then going to game them next turn. Right. Now let's go on to our second test stand going first. Obviously first turns are going to be a little bit underwhelming because Ancient Gears want to be going second to absolutely annihilate your opponent. And the safe plays going first are your VFD option and of course your Howitzer option. But going second, you've got a lot more options. So we're going to cut again, and then we're going to go with our next opening hand of 5 being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now here's the downside of wyvern. Wyvern of course can search pretty much anything we want, but there's no way of getting rid of the gear town because we've got wyvern on board, so we'd have to find a way of getting rid of wyvern, which is kind of harder to do. So your other option here is you can normal summon your hound. Hound can then use his effect to burn your opponent for 600, and then of course fusion into one of your fusion monsters. So best off, because it is our first turn, go into a Howitzer. You've got your protection there with your gear town, and then you can sit on these for your next turn to give you a bit more safety. And of course, when Howitzer leaves the field, or if it's destroyed by your battle and sent to the grave, you special on one Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So if they get rid of this, you can then bring back an Ancient Gear Golem, and you've got the fusion to play off there and then, ready to go. And then our next card would be an Overload Fusion, so that actually wouldn't be too bad, because even if Howitzer stays, you could then normal summon your wyvern. Wyvern would search out whatever you want. You would then link Howitzer and Ancient Gear Wyvern together, and then you've got Overload Fusion that would probably get you game. So that's the power of Foresight in this deck. And of course, like I said, that 6th card does make a huge difference. We'll spend more time when we go second. These are just to kind of show you that it does have defensive plays. And then let's go with a nice good cut. And then our final test hand of going first being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Interesting. Again, we've got plays to kind of work around if we wanted to. So wyvern can actually give us quite a bit now, because wyvern can search out anything you want, but ideally with wyvern you would search out box. Where are we, box? Search out box, and then box effects would go off to search you out your second Ancient Gear gadget. You've now got a very strong power bond should you want to use it. Again, the biggest issue with Power Bond is that you're going to take the burn, and because we're going first, it's not really what you want to be doing. So you could, theoretically, hold on to all of this, because you know your next turn you've got game. If you survive this turn, you've got game. But if you wanted to be a bit more protective, you could do Power Bond going into a howitzer, maybe using any kind of any mixture of these guys, any two of these guys, and then you've got Dark Hole the next turn, to kind of keep you going, and howitzer would obviously stay and survive. So it does give you a couple more options there. Now let's start going second. This is where the deck starts to really thrive, and can be incredibly powerful. Okay, so now let's get on to our test hands going second. This is where the deck can really thrive and kind of flex its muscles a bit. What we're going to do is obviously 6 cards, show you what we can do and how aggressive we can be. So we'll do a nice cut there, and then we're going to open up our starting hand of 6, being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, not too bad if we do this right. So basically what we can do is we'll say we've effect veiled and we slowed our opponent down. That's always going to be a plus. Then we're going to activate our Gear Town, and we're going to activate Foolish Burial of Goods. Now Foolish Burial of Goods, of course, is going to send our Ancient Gear Catapult, and because we haven't used its first effect this turn, we're going to banish that to pop the Gear Town, giving us a token. So that's going to give us an Ancient Gear token, and then Gear Town is going to get its effect off to special summon a monster from our deck. Now obviously the biggest issue is it can only get us a Reactor Dragon really, or it can get us one of these, so it's up to you on what you would like to use. So if we go with Wyvern's effect to search, where are we? Box, and then Box's effect to search us our gadget. Now with 2 monsters on board, we can obviously use them to link into Mischievous Radiant because they both count as Earth. So the token is a machine type Earth, level 1, attack 0, defense 0. So obviously we can use that as a nice little link up, clear off our board, and go into our Mischievous Radiant. And then that, of course, in turn, I believe this is our Mischievous Radiant I've used as a token. Yeah, it is. So that, in turn, gives all of our monsters a nice boost. Now, of course, we can't set any cards this turn, but what we can do is we can normal summon a Hound, use Hound's effect to burn our opponent for 600, and then use his second effect to fuse with all 4 of these cards. Now, all 4 of those cards are going to go into the grave, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing out our Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. We've then got Overload Fusion, so we're going to play that, and we're going to banish our 4 gears we've just sent to the graveyard. We can of course use a Wyvern if we wanted to use another Wyvern, and then we're going in for game, so we can bring out a second Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. Obviously if we wanted to get more effects off of Radiant, then of course we could use we could go into the new Ancient Gear Mechatron. That puts it up to a 38 and does piercing as well. So that does give you a couple of options there to play with, but of course you've pretty much got game there. If we slow them down with Effect Veiler, they're all going to do piercing, they're going to do huge amounts of damage to your opponent, and then your opponent can't activate spells or traps. So unless they've got a way of stopping your plays there, you've pretty much got OTK. Okay, so now let's do our second test hand going second, and see if we can OTK again. Cut. We're going to draw our next hand of 6, being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, again, very interesting. We've got Gear Town, so that's an amazing start already, and we've got Catapult. So we're going to activate our Catapult, and in turn, we're going to special summon out our Ancient Gear Golem. Our Gear Town is then going to go off, and our Gear Town is going to get us a Wyvern. Now the reason we're going for Wyvern is because it can search us out a decent monster. So we're going to go with our Wyvern, or can get us quite far. Our Wyvern will then search us out our Ancient Gear Fusion. There we go, so we've got a pretty decent hand already. You can normal summon your hound and burn your opponent. The main reason we're going with this play is we kind of want to be able to link up. If we're able to link up, then we can get a bit more out of it, because if we go normal summon the hound, burn for 600, then link up into Mrs. Radiant, we can then activate our Ancient Gear Fusion to turn our Golem, and with our Golem we're going to send our second Golem and our Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, because that is going to allow us to bring out our Ancient Gear Mechatron, and that can now attack 3 times. Let me just double check, it's not unaffected by spells. It can attack up to that many times during each battle phase if this face-up fusion summon card in its own control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, special. So yeah, it's absolutely fine, and then we can activate that and it goes up to 66, 76, I believe it is, if my math's right, and he gets to attack 3 times, so that's game. There's nothing your opponent can do about that, unless they stop it coming out with a warning or judgment, or unless they have the ability to, like, I don't know, bottomless trap hole it, just kind of stop it hitting the board, because the second it hits the board and stays on the board and goes into battle phase, they've lost. There's no way they're winning that whatsoever. Okay, so let's go for our final test hand going second, and we'll kind of see if we can OTK again, which will be very, very nice. It does show off exactly what the Ancient Gears are all about and kind of how they operate. So a nice cut there for our final test hand, and then we're going to go with our next 6 being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, not too bad. So we've got the Ancient Gear, we've got the Gear Town, and we've got the Catapult. So we're going to activate the Catapult, destroying our Gear Town, and then our Catapult is going to resolve. Now obviously before all of that we could Dark Hole, and we've cleared all of our opponent's monsters, not worrying too much about that. And then we'll resolve the Gear Town. We have the ability to get into a fusion, so if we wanted to we could go Golem and then we can go Reactor, because we've got another Gear Town in play, so we'd go Reactor. We would then normal summon our Frame, use Frame's effect to pitch Duel, and then Duel gives us protection for the Golem if we wanted to, but we're then going to search out our Ancient Gear Fusion. We're going to activate our Gear Town, we're going to activate our Ancient Gear Fusion using our Golem, and of course as many of these as we want. Depending on what you want to go for, again you've got the variety to choose. We could link up if we wanted to, but right now I don't think we really need it. So we're going to use all 4 of these cards, we're going to send them to the graveyard, go there, and we're going to go into our Chaos Ancient Gear Giant up there. Then we can attack with our Reactor Dragon. Reactor Dragon can pop Gear Town, special summoning another Reactor Dragon from our deck during the battle phase. There we go, and then our Reactor Dragon is going in again for 3k, our Chaos Ancient Giant's going in for 45, and then of course our Frame's going in for 16. So after a Dark Hole, that is game. There's no if, buts or whens with that. Of course, Reactor could pop your opponent's card if you're worried about anything, but you know you've cleared their monsters. All you're worried about is spells and traps. If they haven't had a judgment to stop your Catapult, or if they didn't want to protect their stuff with Dark Hole or the Gear Town or anything like that, then you know they've pretty much got game, because if they haven't, you've pretty much got game. So as you can see, Gears can be very, very powerful going second, and you know, pretty much second to none as a nice little OTK fusion deck that your opponent can do very little about. As soon as you kind of hit the board, you know, with these monsters, your opponent can't do an awful lot. So it does give you a bit more freedom and a bit more play through the game. Anyway, I hope this has given you a couple of ideas of how the Ancient Gears operate and how they kind of work. I've tried to keep it short, sweet and simple to the point, just so you can kind of see how they operate. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, guys, as always, happy dueling. Also, YouTube, thanks for watching that video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button. And of course, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. We've got more deck profiles, duels, pack openings, and many more Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos coming up for you all year round. So don't forget to stay tuned for all of that. Thanks, and as always, guys, happy dueling.